Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heartland Mamas.
I'm Heidi Henry, and I'm in your face.
I'm Marie Briel, trying to save the human race.
And we're coming to you today from the edge of the Great Red Divide. And Marie, I just got back from a 2,000-mile car trip through the Great Red Divide.
Hey, I'm so excited about the shows we have coming up. Heidi had this amazing opportunity to travel through multiple states in the Heartland and talk to different Democrats and different groups. So we are going to be doing a multiple part series, and it'll be what it is in comparison to other places. So look forward to seeing this rolled out over the next couple of months.
I was
so exciting.
In the Midwest and in the Great Plains, and I had never been to the Great Plains before.
Really?
Yeah, and you know one thing about the Great Plains?
They're great?
It's vast.
They're great!
It's so vast, it is unlike agriculture in Illinois, that's for darn sure. And I have a lot of things to share with you about that.
But we want to talk, starting off, about this amazing opportunity that Heidi had. She was in Iowa, and she'd been reaching out to multiple different Democratic organizations, indivisible groups, revolution groups in different states, so that she could see what things were like and were happening. And in that, she was in Iowa, and apparently it is just bananas.
Oh my gosh.
My family lives there, so I'm familiar with it, but I've never experienced it. And Heidi is going to give us so much about the Iowa caucuses and how it works.
I was so impressed with Iowa. I can't, the energy, the enthusiasm, the progressive ideals, and as progressive ideals are just kind of normal Democratic ideals. We call it progressive, but really it's just what we are. And to hear these values and virtues expounded in such an enthusiastic manner, it did me wonders.
So I'm going to give a little bit of an understanding of what a caucus is. Every state elects delegates that will then go and vote for the Democratic candidate.
This year in Milwaukee, or next year in Milwaukee.
And we've talked about becoming a delegate for Illinois.
Right.
Now in Illinois we do a primary, and that is the candidates have to reach certain goals in order to get on the ballot, including having petitions and having their people established from each and every county. And so there's these benchmarks, and then they run a bunch of ads, and we go to the polls in March and say, okay, who we like.
Yeah, we go by ourselves, private ballot, cast our ballot, kind of uneventful, except in the Henry family. We always go out and have a celebratory dinner.
It's a big deal in the Slothauer Briel family as well, let me tell you. Yeah. So, and that's the primary, and you get inundated with lots of mail, but because it is a later primary, it is not necessarily as exciting as what goes on in Iowa.
Iowa's first. It's first in the nation.
And the reason that it's so important for politicos and pundits is that it gives a chance to really see candidates intimately.
Right.
These candidates are there forever.
They
go to everything. They talk to everyone in the state.
They set up bases.
They do all over the state,
over.
Not just in liberal areas, but
all over. And I spent a great deal of time in southwest Iowa, which is usually the reddest part of the state, which is no longer that red. And the energy down there is insane. I mean, the DCCC has always written them off, and now they're trying to help them move further into the blue, which is amazing.
That is so fantastic. Imagine what they have done. This county, this red county, has created so much energy and put so much into the state that now the DCCC is like, hey, we're going to help you out.
Good job, rural America.
So this is something that can happen for us here or anywhere that you're stuck in that situation.
Right.
We can learn a lot from how amazing they are. So what county was it?
I was in Page County, which is the birthplace, the cradle of the Henry family. So my husband's family, long-term Iowa people, generational Iowa people, and the last of the Iowa Henrys passed away in December, Aunt Helen. And Stan and I when we started planning this trip, Marie, it was to wrap up Aunt Helen's estate. Helen had artifacts and artwork and things that were to be donated to different museums and such all over the Great Plains and in the Midwest. And we could have mailed them, but it would have not been, I think, respectful enough. So we decided to load up the car and head on out.
And it gave you a chance to have closure as well.
Oh my gosh. And we got to meet relatives that my husband had not seen in almost 40 years.
Even though it was a sad event, it still turned out to be a pretty amazing adventure for you.
Celebration of her life.
You have to tell the story. You had been, like we had talked about, Heidi'd been reaching out to everyone she could find. She wasn't getting any responses. Maybe they weren't taking her seriously because they were Illinoisans or, whatever the case was. And her and Stan were at a diner. She's got to hear this story.
We stopped at a diner in Shenandoah, Iowa, which is where my husband's family's from. And we were there's a great place to eat there called the Depot. And the Depot is the old train depot, and people there, they have excellent food. And I never think about, are they Republican or Democrat whenever I go. But I'm in Iowa, so I'm assuming, keep it low, Heidi, And,
well, then again, you wanted to wear your Trump, one-issue voter defeat Trump, and I was like, oh, I'm terrified, and you did, and it worked out fine.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
No, but I mean, when we were in Ohio.
Yeah. I promised my husband's extended family, not Stan. Stan doesn't care what I wear. He knows how I am. But I promised my husband's extended family that I would rein it in a little bit, and I was trying to be respectful to them, and then actually once we got talking, it turns out that we're pretty close to the same page anyway. So, but I know that I'm pretty out there about things, and I love conversation starter t-shirts like the progressive shirt I have on today, and that was about as forceful as I was willing to get. Anyway, so we're in this little diner, and I order fried chicken. I'm looking across the restaurant, and in the corner booth, I can tell a political meeting. Murray, we know political meetings when we see them, and I see people with homemade political signs, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if they're Republicans or Democrats, but I really want to know what's going on. So I'm watching, and pretty soon one woman comes over, and I said to her, hi, what's going on over there? And she said,
I love Heidi. I love Heidi.
And she says to me, well, that's Mike Franken. He's running to try to beat Joni Ernst. And I'm like, oh, I was up from the table. So fast.
She literally tackled the woman and pounced to the candidate.
I said, you have to introduce me. And she goes, oh, come on over. She was so nice. And I thought, here she meets me, and it's like, it's like meeting my puppy for the first time. So she introduces me to Mike Franken, who's from Sioux City, which is more in the central part of the state. And he is a retired 3-star admiral. And he is a environmentalist like no other. I mean, this guy is so big on climate issues. He also has a lot of information to share on immigration and livable wages, on the military funding, unnecessary wars. This guy is fabulous. And I got the opportunity to meet him, And
he's running against Joni Ernst.
Well, he's running in a primary, a very full primary. But
still
I'm thinking,
exciting.
Here is the sparkly candidate everybody's been looking for, And so I told him, I said, I've been, I'm on this trip. And, of course, by that time, I'd been driving for 8-9 hours. And I was really pretty road weary.
Yeah,
I was hungry. And so I told him, I said, I've been trying to meet talk to the person who's in charge of the Page County Democrats. He goes, oh, I can introduce you. It was the woman I stopped.
It was the woman she tackled.
So we got a chance to, to be introduced to Chris Adcock, and I was let me tell you, that started this whole odyssey. We spent, Chris introduced me to other people and other people and other people, and we went to this huge meeting. The next day was Democrat and indivisible stuff all day, and with strangers, and they welcomed me in, and they shared all their stories with me, and that we're going to cover in another episode, because
there is just so much to cover.
It's huge. I was only gone a week and 2,000 miles, but there's so much to unpack. I do want to do a whole show on the activism and outreach the Southwest Iowa Democrats have done to do party building, because party building is crucial. Party building is about giving people a place to belong, about giving people a place for purpose and for action.
And I think what might tie in with the party building in Iowa is because they do their caucus. It's so done so very differently.
I love it.
Than it is here. Me too. I think it's fantastic.
So, Marie, why don't you tell them about the caucus?
Okay, so like we were saying, each state elects delegates. The delegates go to a national convention. And some states it's winner take all, some states it's partial.
Right.
So Iowa, in order to decide, like we talked about, we have a primary. They have what's called a caucus. And basically what happens is one day people gather at precinct meeting places. Democrats, registered voters,
right,
gather at precinct
right,
meeting
about
houses.
20% of voters.
20% of voters come.
Yeah.
And what they do is they have to publicly announce who they are supporting. So I would say, I am supporting Andrew Yang.
Okay.
Seriously, not yet at all. I have no choice yet.
Or I picked up a whole bunch of
stuff. Many new things on our wall. I am supporting Elizabeth Warren. Well, then what? Now, I should back it up a second. So as we were talking, there are so many events and everything that go on.
Oh, my God.
This is an 9-month lead up.
It's a marathon.
To their caucus, which is essentially our primary in Illinois. So all of these people have had many opportunities to meet all the different candidates, representatives from the different candidates. So it's not like you're going without any information. You show up, you say who you support. Then everybody breaks off into groups. Right. So, the Yang folks go with Heidi.
The Gabbard people are over there.
The Gabbard people go with Joe.
Kristen Powers might have a person or two over there.
Kristen Powers, who never
I know, but neither did I.
Neither did Henry. Heidi. It's one of those days,
Pete Buttigieg would probably, Biden will have a bunch of people. Warren will have a bunch of people. Harris will have a bunch of people. Booker. And I always picture it, Murray, like, oftentimes it's held in a large room or a gymnasium. So I always picture it like a giant game of Red Rover. So everybody's off in their little cliques, and then
they count.
They count.
So it's, let's see, Harris got 10%.
10%, yeah.
Warren has 35% of the people. Biden has 20% of the people. Anyway, they're all everyone is counted. And those candidates that don't have at least 15% of people in their group, then go away.
Right.
But
they don't leave.
Voted, don't get to leave. They have to then choose another group to join.
So the other groups are out there articulating why you should come and join the Yang Gang, or why you should go join the Gabbard Gang,
or the Bernie Bros,
or the Warrenites, or whatever you want to call them.
So the groups that made it over 15% then have to persuade everybody who doesn't have a candidate now.
I'm telling you, like Red Rover.
To one of theirs. Right.
Red Rover.
Although Red Rover, they bust through.
I know. And I kind of picture it that way, so maybe it's not quite that rowdy. This year, Murray, because they could only get 20% of the voters, they're opening it up to virtual. So every county will have a virtual caucus.
This is very, very revolutionary. It's exciting. They're thinking that because Iowa is very, very vast. They have more farm animals than they do people by like 6 to 1. Because they're a very livestock-heavy state.
Right.
And so, you've got miles and miles and miles between small communities. So this is an opportunity for them to participate without having to drive 2 hours and be there, or make a whole entire day.
They can log in from their phone or their computer.
It'll be really interesting. They're curious to see how it's going to go.
Right.
And it'll be real interesting to watch from
from a distance. And Marie and I have been invited to attend several of the caucuses as observers. We can't vote in their caucus. But
we will be going and observing and reporting, and it's going to be so exciting.
It's so much more exciting than what we do in Illinois.
Right? I mean, yeah, I know. I get my sticker. We go get ice cream. But seriously, this is
like
fantastic.
real-time civics.
And I think the thing about it that we could learn a lesson from in those places where we do primaries is that you have to persuade other people to join yours, and there's no hard feelings.
Right.
Iowa doesn't walk out of there trying to still pull people away from one candidate or another. One of the things Heidi mentioned was that there was none of that in these events. So you went to a steak fry.
I went to the steak fry, which is one of the largest presidential candidate events in the state. And I want to say there was 19 speeches. I'll have to look at my notes, but everybody was there. Everybody was there. Everybody gave a speech. Everybody marched in like a parade with their followers. People were standing up and cheering for people they'd never heard of before or hadn't worked with. And the steak fry is filled with all these young adults that are right out of college and enthusiastic, and there's the Warren people running around handing out bottles of water and granola bars, and other people. Everybody's got a sticker to support their candidate, and I've got some of those stickers up on the wall there, and buttons. I got buttons, and there were some candidates that didn't give out any
We're
swag.
We're going to talk a little bit about that as well.
Some are just gone,
Right.
So.
We're going to do. One of the issues was there was nothing for Bernie Sanders.
There was not a booth that I could find for Sanders.
There wasn't a booth. There wasn't any information.
No. He gave a great speech.
He was there.
Yeah. I tweeted it out. I tweeted out part of his speech, which was his opening part. I tweeted it out, and I know I tagged Heartland Mamas in it. So if you want to look for Truly Heidi Henry, that's me on Twitter. But I tweeted out some live tweeting. It was hard because the crowds were huge, even though it was raining. But Bernie didn't have a booth, and neither did Harris, and neither did Gabbard. So I wasn't able to bring a lot of stuff home.
Which surprises me about Gabbard, because
she's put a lot of money and time.
She has put a lot of money in
Iowa.
Iowa. When my sister-in-law passed away, and we were in Iowa a month and a half ago, she was and that's where the Iowa State Fair was.
Yeah.
She was the only candidate with signs in the yards. There were Gabbard signs everywhere, large signs. So it really surprises me that she didn't have a big presence.
I didn't see a presence. I saw a presence for Kristen Powers, who I'd never heard of before. I really don't know anything about her. Marianne Williamson had quite a booth. Joe Biden had one, but you had to buy everything there, so I didn't bring back any Joe Biden stuff.
He's not giving anything out, huh?
I don't carry any cash.
For the
gotta give $5 for
general election.
I don't know. You gotta pay $5 for 3 buttons.
Some campaign.
I doubt he's having financial issues. I just think it's.
So one of the ones that was interesting too is Harris. You said didn't have. You were supposed to go.
I was supposed to see when you go to the steak fry. You either can buy a ticket or you can be invited by a candidate. And I happened to get an invitation from the Harris camp, so I was supposed to get Stan and I were supposed to get T-shirts. And my husband's a 3X, so how many of those are walking around? And a steak dinner, and you go to the gate and they let you in and you go, connect. Do you know I couldn't find a Kamala Harris booth? I mean, I found an empty table with a couple signs on it. I've got one of the signs up on the wall back there, but
and all the candidates spoke there.
Yeah, I didn't hear her. We were a little late, and apparently she spoke just before we got there. We were driving rain through Kansas and Missouri to get to Iowa that day. So traffic was really slow getting there.
So she made her speech, but she didn't have the network or the infrastructure in place.
She had a lot of people there, but they said that they had been at a rally earlier in the day and everything was there. And the one man was really nice. He gave me his own personal ticket, which then I felt bad because this kid was going to eat lunch. And when we explained it at the food booth, they're like, oh, yeah, we got plenty of food. Don't worry about it. So it was not a big deal. But I just thought it was odd. you invite people in that you think are going to, because there's no way that they could have known I was from Illinois.
No.
So they're talking to me as a caucus person, and they kind of ditched me. And I think there was probably maybe 5 people in Kamala Harris shirts going around.
And I think that may be indicative of her campaign. Now, a couple of weeks ago, there was a polling memo that was left saying that she isn't spending enough time in New Hampshire and that she's not polling the way she should. There's been some criticisms about her in Iowa. She's doing okay fundraising-wise. So I wonder if it's not that just her grounding, her infrastructure isn't strong enough.
Well,
I can't see someone who's still in it dropping a ball on the largest steak dinner in the state of Iowa during
a lot of the booths were very elaborate and had a lot of both free and purchasable merch, signs and stuff. And she did have a whole crowd of people that came in apparently from this other fundraiser event that she did, and they scattered throughout the crowd.
But you were invited as her guest.
Right.
So you were supposed to get a shirt because that's how you represent your candidate.
We were going to wear our shirts too.
And so you get your ticket.
Right.
And so you didn't get any of that.
No.
And that is an organizational
I got a wet
issue.
sign.
I'm sure she paid for everything, so it's not financial. It's an organizational issue.
Well, and I think as a former candidate, I know I was my organizer. Even though I hired campaign managers, I was my campaign manager, and I really didn't know what I was doing. She's run for office before, so she should know these things.
Although it's different on that
level,
scale.
yeah.
It's a whole other animal than
I was
your small district
completely
or your
lost.
Large state.
And we've talked about the mistakes that I made because I just figured it was just up to the people. I had no idea it was up to all these other people
there are
that are
so
in charge.
many mistakes that are easily made.
I didn't know that you got to pay homage to this person.
It'll be coming too.
Yeah, that you got to pay homage to people that you maybe don't like or don't want to hang out with or would never hang out with.
Yeah, there's a lot of unspoken rules in politics. And this brings us absolutely back to why I think the caucuses are really cool.
I know.
And what Page County was able to do to build this party, to take a red rural area in a small population and create such a force that it attracted the attention of the DCCC to try to help turn Iowa blue. Yes. That is gigantic. That's immeasurable. And I mean, it's insane.
Well, we got Southwest Iowa Democrat shirts, and we wore. And if you see some of my pictures, either on my Facebook page or
she didn't bring me one. I didn't get an even up. I went out to Iowa Caucus and I got this lousy T-shirt.
It's not the caucus yet, but
I know.
So when we went, we were wearing those at the steak fry, and all the candidates except for Harris and except for Biden. But I had so many of the candidates come up and ask us to caucus with them. And then I'd have to explain that we're really from Illinois wearing these shirts that we got. And they were so disappointed because they're like, we need Southwest Iowa. And I thought, man, whatever you're doing down there, we need to do it out here,
and again, the caucus system, so it just keeps going until you only have viable candidates.
Right.
And everyone walks out going, hey, I can support this candidate.
Yes.
Even though mine didn't win, my questions have been answered and I can support this candidate. And the unity in the party building. Now, in Illinois, we do it differently.
Yeah.
And it creates, I think, a very adversarial system. We have primaries. And Heidi did not experience the absolute joy of a primary, but several of us did. And in all across the state, we are seeing strong primary challenges and weak primary challenges from on Democrats coming up, as senators retire or decide not to run or want to run for something else.
Right. Or we have
representatives.
We have Republican held seats that a new Democrat is stepping up for, and vice versa. And we have in the 14th congressional district, we have a very adversarial Republican race coming up to face off against the amazing Lauren Underwood.
Now, I don't expect. I truly. That's not. Let the Republicans tear each other apart.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they do. As far as Democrats go, I want to caution, we need to be very careful about this. And, after nasty primaries, they have unity brunches. I mean, our gubernatorial primary was rough. last year.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a tough one, the Democrats.
Bloody knuckles.
Oh, yeah. So we had these unity parties.
Yes.
And that
went to
may
one.
be nice, and you decide, all right, we're going to support them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really repair any issues. So I strongly encourage everyone to remember, while politics is insanely personal for the person running, it's not insanely emotionally personal mostly for you.
For the voters.
So keep that in mind. Know that what Iowa is doing is something that's fantastic, and those that don't have it or have more adversarial, remember, at the end of the day, y'all have to look each other in the eyes because we're all part of the same party.
Right.
You all have to let go of what happened, so don't create those problems
We're
to begin
part
with.
of the same party with a common goal.
Absolutely.
So don't pick up your toys and go home.
No, you can't.
I told you, Marie, today on Facebook, it started last night with somebody who wanted to pick up their toys and go home, and I thought, are you kidding me? In the 2020 primary, we do not have the luxury of picking up our toys and going home. We link arms.
And the thing about that you mentioned too, and that I've seen just from the debates, I've seen from the media coverage, from personal experiences, I have seen that this Democratic primary, yes, it's still early, but they're all playing nice in the sandbox.
Well, they're
a couple of swings here and there in a debate.
Mostly ageist, which I hate.
But it's still not nasty. They're still working together. Like Heidi explained, at the steak fry, all these different groups are working with each other. They're not trying to undercut the other group to get supporters. They're like, here's my pitch, and you like me, have an ice cream cone. And this one's like, here's my pitch, have a cupcake.
Yeah.
and it's not vicious.
I have to tell you, Marie, that, sorry, I knocked the camera, and I did it again. I have to tell you, Marie, that as I listened to the speeches, and I only missed a couple because we were a little late, as we listened, the themes were all the same. Any single candidate we elect, any single candidate that primaries through is going to give us health care better than what the current president is going to do, because he's going to take it away, is going to cause the world to be a more peaceful place, because our current president is causing it to be a very aggressive,
is going to
power-hungry struggle.
Reinforce democracy as opposed to fascism.
And I think that it would be in the best interest of the party to remember the things that unite us and that hold us together, and stop being focused on those little things that divide us. That's,
and it's not saying that an issue may not be so important to you and you're 100% behind your candidate. That's what you should be.
Right.
Whether it's your county clerk or your county board member or your presidential choice. You should be passionate about who you want.
Right.
But the difference is, be passionate and positive and sway people the way they do in Iowa.
Yeah.
The way the presidential candidates are doing it.
They
don't go on the attack.
Yeah.
And it's not the candidates themselves. Remember, when you see these posts on Facebook and you see these posts on Twitter and you hear these stories, it won't ever come from the candidate themselves. It will come from their proxies.
Right.
To create division. And candidates, remember, those people representing you, the people in the know.
Yes. Well, and not only that, it's not only the people in the know that know. We all know. We all know that you may not say, I really hate Joe Schmo from Kokomo. You'll have somebody else say it for you. But we all know it was you.
So remember, like my dad, the most amazing man in the world, except my husband and my boys, and Stan.
Yeah.
Would always say, remember, in politics, your enemy today is your friend tomorrow. And it's like that in life.
Yeah.
If I hate Bubba, who lives next door to me, and we are the Hatfields and the McCoys, and a tornado comes and hits Bubba's house, I'm going to be the first one over there making sure Bubba's okay, giving him a place to stay and doing everything I can. Why? Because at the end of the day, we all want to work together.
Right.
We all need each other.
We're all in the same boat together.
This personal become a divider,
well,
it does more damage than good.
And you know that there are some of the candidates running, and I don't care what election it is, but I'll use a presidential, that have groups of people that stir the pot all the time. And they say, oh, it wasn't me, it was my supporters. No, if it was really just that, then you would put a stop to it.
And isn't it interesting that those candidates are, I think that particular presidential candidate that we're talking about, I don't think he quite realizes, or he does, and he has to put a stop to it.
Well, absolutely.
But they weren't doing that in Iowa, were they?
No, but they do that in Illinois. And
in Illinois, it becomes this, we're taking our ball and going home. They're the only candidate that exists.
Because somebody might take PAC money from a PAC we don't like.
Yet in Iowa, that very same presidential candidate's campaign has a very different tone, and all the supporters have a different tone.
There's none of that. There was none of it.
Does that give anybody food for thought?
It was
maybe a catch, like my mama always says, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar.
The vinegar is very
fruit flies really.
Well, and that's why I think, we're not going to say which candidate, but why I've not ever been a big supporter, because I don't like the supporters that surround that candidate. It's not that I don't like them; I don't like their attitude.
When you're getting hot and bothered, remember it's a bigger picture. Remember that it doesn't matter how much you may or may not like. If something happened, you would be there to help someone no matter who they are.
Hey,
and that's the way a race needs to be.
Whoever primaries through. And this was a common theme in Iowa, in Nebraska, in Missouri, in Kansas. Whoever primaries through, everybody was going to work their butts off for, no matter who it was.
So maybe we need to change the tone in some different areas to help push that along. We don't need to be so adversarial.
Right. Like I said, Illinois is unique that way.
I'm amazed at your journey. So we are going to be doing lots more of these bits.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack.
And we're going to be talking more about our candidates. We're also going to be doing other events. Please, if you're interested in having us come out, reach out to us at heartlandmamas.com. You can get us Gmail, heartlandmamas, M-A-M-A-S. Twitter, Facebook, we are everywhere. And we thank you so much for joining us. And Heidi, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot wait to do the rest of these shows because her stories are going to be ridiculous.
I have about 30 pages of notes that I took. And I, big note taker, but...
I do too. You see me, right?
Our next one's probably going to be on party building and what I saw in Iowa more specifically, as far as what they're doing to help build the party in that southwest part of Iowa, in the Democratic Party and in Indivisible, which I've been active with since 11 days after the 2016 election. And something near and dear to my heart, what they do in Iowa with Indivisible is so vastly different than what we do in Illinois. By leaps and bounds.
Just in general, I think that the two are very different, and maybe we can learn some things from our, Heidi's adventures throughout the Heartland.
Just things to bring back and share.
So thanks again, guys. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, ask your friends and family to like us.
And on our Facebook page today, I will post some of my pictures from my adventure that are pertinent to today's broadcast.
So stay tuned and share us far and wide.
Take care now.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.